Hi. In this video, I'm going to talk about the 6 different modes of thinking, and that's because we are capable of accessing more of our brain power more of the time. And the good news is that we know our brains are incredibly malleable and adaptable, so with some awareness and attention, it is possible to build this capacity and to open up new ways of thinking and improve your brain agility. Neuroscientist and author Dr. Tara Swart has defined 6 types of thinking for leaders. They are creativity, which is about designing the ideal future; motivation, staying resilient to reach your goals; logic, which is about making good decisions; emotional intelligence, which is about mastering your own emotions; mind-body connection, which is about knowing yourself inside and out; and intuition or gut instinct, which is really about trusting yourself. Most people have a clear preference for 1 or 2 of these ways of thinking, and most of us will draw on 1 or 2 others on occasion, and then we often have 1 or 2 that we never really use or wouldn't be very comfortable using. But as a leader, you'll be much more effective if you can integrate all 6 of these different ways of thinking rather than just relying on 1 or 2. And that means being able to draw on them at different times when you really need to, and when you're under pressure, and have that flexibility of thinking. And because our brains are really, malleable, we're capable of continuing to develop, our brains throughout our lives. And it means we can actually use this idea of neuroplasticity to develop our ability to think in all 6 different modalities and really maximize this whole brain approach. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about each of these. A creative brain is one that can put ideas to use in unexpected ways. So combining contrasting thoughts or to create new ones. And so we can reinvent, imagine, improve, and even rethink. And so when we're thinking with our whole brain and we devote our kind of creative power to a problem, it means we see possibilities where other people might see limitations. And creative thinking helps us approach these complex problems in new and innovative ways. And it's really essential for working for systems change, as it helps us to challenge our own assumptions and generate some new ideas and approaches that can lead to more effective and sustainable solutions over time. And a key to creative thinking is really being open, and leaders who are open to new experiences are found to be much more creative and literally perceive information differently. So this is a way of thinking that might not come naturally to everyone, but it's something that can really be practiced and cultivated and improved through conscious effort. The next one is motivation, and this is a type of goal-driven thinking or decision-making, right? And so it's about being driven by our purpose and passion and using that in order to keep focus and set some clear goals and make pivotal decisions, which really can be critical when we're driving change in complex systems. And motivated thinking can have both positive and negative effects on leadership. On the one hand, it can help leaders to be more focused and decisive and really effective at achieving their goals. And on the other hand, it can also lead to some biases, right? Or errors, or even in extreme circumstances, unethical behavior, especially when leaders prioritize their own interests over those of the organization as a whole. And then we have logical thinking, and many cultures regard logic as really the height of intelligent thinking. And logic has often been elevated above other sort of types of thinking, and described as more reliable and aligned with common sense. So we tend to think of science and mathematics as more logical and analytical. But when we use logic, our brain is drawing on our past experiences to inform our decisions. And so our logic is limited by our own experience of the world and our own biases. So to make good logical decisions, you need to think flexibly and creatively by incorporating all these other ways of thinking. And this is also backed up by research that shows that when your ability to tap into your emotions is impaired, this actually affects your ability to think logically as well. So, and then also relying on too heavily on logic can lead to some prediction errors, or being even overly cautious if you don't develop this ability to identify risks that are worth taking. And weighing up logical decision making is also very energy intensive in our brains, right? It can be a good idea to build regular routines that reduce the number of choices we have throughout the day. If you need to make, to save some of that energy for our brain for the really important decisions. Next, we have emotional intelligence or emotional mastery. I mean, humans are creatures of emotion, right? We are all, and all of our decisions are biased by emotion, whether we'd like to admit it or not. So, emotional mastery is often the most important one of all of the different ways of thinking to work on. We know from our experience looking at the social brain that experiencing social threats and rewards can have a profound impact on our cognitive processes. So, emotional mastery is both about the ability to accurately interpret other people's emotions, but also the ability to regulate and attend to our own emotions in the moment. And so, as a leader, having this awareness of our emotions and how they are impacting us can really help us avoid decisions that are purely based on emotion. And it's the thinking approach that holds the most potential for change, right? It's often the one that we need to work on the most, so it's the one that we can improve on the most. And so, we're always going to feel triggers, right? And feel emotions. And it's how we respond that is within our control. And with practice, we can improve our ability to recognize this and control our response, right? And a strong ability to regulate our emotions is something we need to work at. And practices like mindfulness can help, and even naming that emotion in the moment can take away some of its power. And building and expanding these pauses between a thought we have and our response will also help to control our emotions. Next, we have brain-body connection, and this is also known as interoception. And this is the ability to feel and understand what is going on in our own body and process these signals. Right? So by building that connection between our mind and body, we're not only taking care of our well-being, if we're getting enough sleep and we're eating good nutritious meals and staying hydrated and getting exercises, we're actually helping our higher cognitive functioning as well, right? So we're helping to make sure our brain is working at its best. And there's a growing body of evidence that an effective brain-body connection is really important for all of the higher functions of our brain, right? So if we're taking care of a body, we know we can also gain new insights to our own thinking processes, identify biases and limitations in our own thinking, make more objective and rational decisions, and even develop more effective strategies for decision making when our brain is working at its best. And in recent decades, there's been an increasing amount of evidence that has also emerged that challenges some of the traditional view that cognition is purely a mental process. Right? And so this idea of embodied cognition argues that our bodily experiences, such as perception and movement and even emotion, play a fundamental role in shaping our cognitive processes, including things like attention and memory, reasoning, and even decision making. And finally, we have intuition, and that's about your gut-brain connection and your ability to make quick and accurate decisions without conscious thought or deliberation. And neurobiological research has revealed that there is a complex communication system between the millions of neurons embedded in our gut walls and the limbic brain that is the key to our decision making. And this gut-brain connection is not only responsible for our digestive system, but is also involved in the complex functions of our brain, including motivation and access to our deeper wisdom. And this growing body of evidence is suggesting that our microbiome also plays a role in optimal brain performance, as well as supporting our immunity and resilience. And so the health of your digestive system actually correlates with your ability to rely on your intuition. So that kind of common phrase of making a decision based on a gut feeling is actually existing on this neurobiological level as well. And the gut, also produces neurotransmitters. So 90% of the serotonin that works in our brain is produced by our gut. And serotonin is, which is most commonly known as the happy hormone, regulates our mood. So taking care of our gut and eating balanced meals and getting regular exercise and ensuring we have this healthy microbiome helps keep production of serotonin at healthy levels so that this happy hormone is available to our brains, which can then really help us with, when it comes to dealing with stress and being resilient as well. So you can share these 6 different modes of thinking with your team or other groups that you work with, and take the time to reflect on which of these modes do you really rely most heavily on in your work, and which would you like to work on consciously to try and improve your brain agility. And by being aware of these modes and reflecting on them together as a team or in your organization, You can unlock more of your brain's potential with practice, and you'll be able to move more flexibly between these different modes when you need to call on them. Thanks for watching.